Good morning, everyone. Hope y'all are doing good. All right, let's get this thing rolling here. Let's get live on Instagram. I'm running a little late this morning. Sorry about that. All right, let's get rolling on Instagram as well. All right, we're live on Instagram, live on YouTube. Let me actually turn this down a little bit here. All right. Hope everyone's doing great so far today. As we wait for more people to roll in here, let me talk through some of the disc releases happening this week. Let me get those pulled up. A little late this morning because I went for my run a little later than normal. I'm still sweaty from it. And then got into the coffee shop later than normal, got my coffee. And then when I got in, had to do a Manscaped read. Luckily, those things take very little time because we've been doing them for 3 years. And so, yeah, now we're here. Now we're live. But big week this week as far as releases go. Let me see. Looks like the Gorgon from Innova releases tomorrow, so that's exciting. Um, it looks like we had the In the Bag Pigs. If you saw those, In the Bag Pigs dropped on Friday. The In the Bag Zones dropped this upcoming Friday. I don't know if I could tell you about this next disc yet because whatchamacallit. Let me see if I can fix this on Instagram. There we go. We haven't announced that these are coming today or coming yet. They're not dropping today. They're coming this weekend. So I don't know if I can tell you about them, but we'll just say we have a Trevor Staub custom stamped disc coming this weekend. We should have a restock on the Conman Shamans and the Robbie C Wizards this weekend. Don't quote me on that. Last I heard was last Friday, so I don't know if that's actually going to end up coming in time because they were supposed to be coming in. We also should have some House of Discs drops, which typically, that means Trilogy or Discmania. I forget what drops this week, to be honest with you. Let me see if Brad put them in. Okay, it looks like we have the Spore coming this week, the DD, the MD5, Ella Hansen FD, and then a K1 Hard Berg and a K1 Hard Lots, which is fun. And then we also have some of that college Prodigy stamped stuff. So some of your favorite colleges stamped on Prodigy discs, which are exciting. What is Trilogy? And Frano said, that's a great question because I keep calling it Trilogy. And if you haven't been around disc golf for a long time, you might be like, what the heck is Trilogy? So back in the day, Trilogy, essentially what happened was you had Latitude 64 was the manufacturer, right? Then Latitude 64 started making discs and distributing through Dynamic Discs. So that was two. Then Latitude and Dynamic went in together and either bought or started, I can't remember, but they both owned Westside Discs. So Latitude was producing for these three companies. And so therefore, they became known as Trilogy. And so there was like Team Trilogy, all that stuff. And so that's why I still refer to them as Trilogy, is Dynamic, Latitude, Westside. Nowadays, with House of Discs, under that umbrella is also Castaplast and Discmania, and it's gotten way bigger. But when I say Trilogy, I'm referring to Latitude, Dynamic, and Westside. It's going to take a while for me to get that out of my vocabulary. But yeah, the other big thing happening this week is you might have seen it on social media. We have launched our app. I told you all about this last week, but we've launched our app officially, and this weekend is the big giveaway, big everything. So what the giveaway is going to be, I think it's better with reverse hat. What the giveaway is going to be is you add discs to your wish list. A ton of people have already entered this. You add the discs or items, apparel items, whatever you want to your wish list. You screenshot that, you post it on social media and tag Foundation, or you DM it to Foundation, whatever you're more comfortable with. And that enters you to the giveaway. And then on Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, exclusively live in the app, we're going to be doing a sales-a-thon. There's going to be exclusive sales going on in the app, right? So you can only get these sales going on in the app during the sales-a-thon. And during that sales-a-thon, we're going to pick someone, at least one person, probably 3 or 4 people's names from all the submissions, and you're going to win your wish list. So whatever discs are on your wish list, we're sending them to you. So super excited about that. I think that's going to be really cool. That goes down Friday at 12. So reminder, Friday 12 is when that sales-a-thon live stream goes on. Go ahead and download the app and get your wish list stuff filled up. and then one of you is going to win it on Friday. I'm dehydrated. Dehydrated. What's the cap on that for wish list? So really, what you can screenshot, I think you can get 6 items on there. Some people have been saying this multiple pictures, but sorry. But what's gonna be easiest is if you add your items to the wish list, right? And you scroll to where there's the names up top, the picture in the middle, picture down below. You should be able to get 6 items, and that would be the easiest way to like get it in. So no real cap. There's just a chance that like how we're collecting all of the things for the giveaway is I'm screenshotting all of the entries so I can have them in a folder, and then I can pick from that folder randomly and have your social media tag in there. So there's a chance if you send me multiple screenshots or multiple screenshots of your thing that only one gets picked and you only get part of your wish list. So I would try to get it all on one page if possible. But I figured before I start taking a bunch of questions and doing the Q&A side of the coffee break, I thought I would talk about something that we forgot to talk about somehow on Grip Lock yesterday, which we might, I'm going to talk to Trevor when he gets in. We might try to end up doing like a Grip Lock half episode today on this topic, because I just can't believe that we went yesterday and didn't do this, but cover that again. I'll talk about the giveaway again in a minute. Kevin Jones to Innova. We didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about a Grip Lock. How did we not talk about it? I don't know. But last week I think we talked about like where do we think he's going to go on the coffee break, obviously. And Innova was what I was hearing. I just didn't really believe it. It didn't really seem to make sense. So what I want to talk about here, like I said, we'll probably end up doing a Grip Lock like half episode today to release just exclusively on the Kevin Jones thing, because someone commented and said that it might be the choke of the year, us forgetting to talk about Kevin Jones on Grip Lock, and I think that's got to be up there. Well, it's fun. Like I have screenshots of stuff and everything, and like to talk about it after I'm done. But sorry, responding to a text my wife. Screenshots stuff to talk about it, but for some reason it just like came and went, didn't talk about it. So what I figured is on coffee break, I'm gonna talk about the business side of like what could be going on. Why does this make sense for both companies? Why does this make sense for Prodigy? Why does this make for Innova? And then we should be able to get a like half episode, like a 30-minute episode in today for Grip Locked, where we can like really cover it up more in depth. But I wanted to kick this off with this Drew Gibson thread because I thought it was interesting. He posted on Twitter, X, and said, "I'm posting just to understand the logic. Prodigy files a lawsuit against Gannon Burr for trying to leave in the offseason. They then fire/terminate Kevin Jones' contract mid-season. Too expensive and they can't afford it. Seems odd to me. Explanations, anyone?" So we learned a few things here, whether Drew has sources or he's just assuming. Right? But he said, like, they terminate Kevin Jones' contract. That's a new detail. That wasn't really posted anywhere, right? Then he said, too expensive, they can't afford it. Also a new detail, wasn't really posted anywhere. Seems odd to me, explanations, anyone? And then he responded back to himself and said, make it make sense. Gannon was trying to better his situation, yet he signed a contract, so is offered a lawsuit versus a way out. Yet they void a contract when it's no longer in their best interest to pay it. Hypocritical or no, did they offer Kevin a severance? And then responded back to that again and said, I simply posted this to call out the hypocrisy of their honor your contract while being willing to terminate another player's contract. They dictate their ethics/practices by who it is, not the principle. Obviously, if KJ wanted out in the offseason, they'd have been happy. So, very interesting thread here, right, from Drew Gibson. Because I don't know where he's getting a lot of this information, because from what I saw, right, is we had the Kevin Jones post that he was leaving, and then we had the Prodigy post that he was gone, and then on the Disc Golf Network, no audio, funny enough, but on the Disc Golf Network, we had the Kevin Jones announcement that he's going to Innova, where they did the commercial on there, and then shortly after that, they had Disc Golf Pro Tour posted a like kind of cheesy post of him taking his jacket off, said Innova on the back, and then Innova made their post of like "Welcome to Innova." So that happened all this weekend at a Prodigy event, nonetheless. Very funny timing. But so that's where the public information, that's the public facing. But Drew seems to have some details that must not be public. So let's get into the weeds here, right? Kevin Jones leaves mid-season. He's not having a good season this season. Let's actually look at what Kevin Jones' season is. Let me pull up PDGA Kevin Jones, because he was in the middle of a deal with Prodigy that he signed in 2021 that I believe would have went through 2025, maybe 2026. So this season, Kevin Jones has went 44th, 52nd, 24th, 78th, 25th, 51st, 20th, 60th, 68th, 41st, 78th, 34th, and then at the Preserve, which was his first event with Innova, he came in 28th. So up and down season, his best finishes are what I think 27th was his best on the Pro Tour, 24th was his best on the Pro Tour this season. Not the player that anyone expected him to be at this point in his career, right? When this was signed back in 2021, it felt like he could be the face of Prodigy, you know? But here we are. So what could have led to this? Because very mid-season's weird and mid-contract weird. Least likely to most likely. Least likely, Innova could have bought it out. Innova could have, for some reason, been like, hey, we want Kevin Jones. We'll buy out the rest of his contract. I would put that at a 1% chance. Very, very low likelihood. Next up, down the line, a little bit more likely is, so most likely to me is probably it was a mutual agreement, right? Where you had Kevin Jones not really performing up to what he expects of himself or what other people are expecting of him. I misspoke earlier. 20th is his best placing this year at Music City. He's not performing up to what he expects of himself or what Prodigy expects of him, what anyone expects of Kevin Jones. So maybe he just wanted a fresh start, and Prodigy at the same time was like, hey, you know what? We have X amount guaranteed. The rest of it is supposed to be made up by royalties. Your discs aren't selling super hot because you're not playing super hot. We're willing if you're willing. It could have just been a mutual, let's call this done. If you've got another offer that excites you more, we're willing to back out if you're willing to back out. Another option is there could have been a performance clause. I think it'd been a crazy clause because I don't know what they would use for performance, whether it be like the Pro Tour standings or world ranking or something. There could have been a performance clause of like, this contract is void if you ever drop out of the top 30 or something like that, right? Where it could have been a performance clause where he got dropped because it was supposed to be XYZ. There also could have been some legal stuff of like, maybe the contract said he had to post once a week or once a month or something and use hashtag powered by Prodigy or something, and he didn't do it, and there's a technicality he can get out. Or Prodigy can let him go. I don't know. It's hard to know which side. The almost more interesting thing is that this was announced and he went straight to Innova, right? So to me, it's like almost seems like Innova was the spark to this, because I have a hard time believing he announced he was leaving and then Innova picked him up that quick. That doesn't make sense to me. What does make sense to me is he had an offer from Innova, brought it to Prodigy. They mutually agreed like, hey, you know what? We're good if you're good. He leaves and goes to Innova, probably for a lower contract, because I would imagine like when he signed his deal in 2021, he had just come off of like 2020. He came in 6th at Las Vegas Challenge, top 20 at Waco. He came in 6th at DDO, came in 4th at D-Glow. He won the Mid-America Open, a silver event. He won GMC in 2020. This says he won the Tour Championship. That can't be right. Kevin Jones won the Tour Championship in 2020? That's what this says. So maybe Kevin Jones won the Tour Championship too. I don't remember that. So like that's the year he was coming off of though. Regardless, like top 25 USDGC, like a lot of top 15s. And then 2021, he signs this deal. And he still was like, he had several top 5, 4th at Jonesboro. He had a 4th at Portland Open, a top 10 at Las Vegas. He was in All-Star Weekend. He was a top 10 guy, realistically, if I'm looking at this. and then he just kind of slowly faded away over the several years of this contract going on. So I don't know. It's a very, very interesting situation. I also just find it interesting. Drew Gibson typically in these situations knows more than what he leads on to. So when he says, you have to pay attention to what kind of Drew says between the lines. And like when Drew is saying um, things like Prodigy terminated it because Kevin was too expensive, like he's typically speaking from a place that he knows what's going on, which would then allude to this wasn't a mutual agreement. So I don't know. Very, very interesting situation. Like I said, we'll probably do a half episode of Grip Block to get Trevor's opinion on it too. But where I think this could be good, right, is Prodigy side, he wasn't moving stuff, right? The reverb, the distortion, like that. Gannon was moving those discs pre-Gannon leaving because Kevin's performance just hasn't been up to snuff. It hasn't been what you expected. So for Prodigy, this could be something where I don't know what his guarantee was, but probably his guaranteed money was probably more than he's worth currently. So this is something where they can get him off their payroll, right? And then for Innova, what's exciting about it is you should be able to pick him up for cheaper than his potential because he has a high ceiling, right? And then you are allowing him to get back to his roots because when he was with Prodiscus, when he was first popping onto the scene, he was throwing a lot of Innova drivers and he knows a lot of Innova stuff. So then for Innova, this could be an exciting because they probably got him for cheap. Expectations for Kevin Jones are extremely low, so it's a low risk. It's not like people are expecting him to come out and perform. But if he does, the only thing that shifted was the discs, right? So now this is an opportunity for Innova to hit that marketing, and it's kind of a unspoken marketing play, right? So for Innova, it makes sense as long as they got him for the right price. It doesn't make sense if they just like paid him out the wazoo for hopes that he's going to be a completely different player than we've seen him be for a long time. But yeah, I think that it's a very interesting move, one that I did not expect to happen, but here we are. So I do think it could be really good for his career. I think that going to Innova could be like the restart, the jump start he needed that could really push him over the edge. I think it could be very good for his career, but we shall see. We shall see. All right. Let's answer some questions. If anyone has any questions, whether related to the Kevin Jones thing or not, whatever it may be. I need more water. I'm dying. It was so humid this morning. All right, let's see here. Nicholas said, "Hi, I'm in the very early stages of setting up my own disc golf store. I'm in Sweden. So the off season during winter is pretty significant. Any tips on how to make it through those months?" Yeah, that's tough. Because if you're in person only, right, then it's just gonna be hard during the winter because I don't know if y'all play during the winter. I don't know how that works. I know in the U.S., like some of the northern states where winter's pretty brutal, they'll still get out and play. But even during that, it's only like diehards. Um, it could be something where maybe you can find a seasonal job during the winter, right? Like I don't know if like in the U.S. there's certain seasonal jobs, right? Like I know when I would go to West Virginia and we would go like whitewater rafting, the rapids there only ran for a few months out of the year. And so the guy who was our guide was a travel nurse the rest of the year. And then during those few months, he was a tour guide on the rapids because that's what he loved to do. It could be a similar thing. Like if there is a job in Sweden that you can find that is a winter job, then you can close the doors or run very minimum hours throughout the winter, make your own, survive via your other job during that time, whether it be something with skiing or snowboarding or I don't know what the winter would be. And then once spring and summer rolls around, that seasonal work's over and disc golf's your spring and summer seasonal thing. I don't know. That could be an awesome life. So yeah. Can I explain the giveaway again? Yeah, a lot of new people are in. Basically, we launch an app. I'm not going to go into all the nitty gritty of the app. You can find that information a bunch of different places. But in the app, there's a thing called the wish list. And basically, you can heart items it adds to your wish list. You take your wish list, screenshot that and tag us on social media or DM us on social, either way. Foundation Disc Golf's main account. Tag us or DM us. That will enter you into the giveaway. The drawing will happen Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going live exclusively in the app for a sales-a-thon. So there'll be a sales-a-thon live exclusively in the app, and we'll be doing the giveaway during that, where we're going to pick a few people and give them the items from their wish list. So there you have it. Landon said, where does college disc golf go from here? I don't know what you mean by from here. So I'm just going to say from where I know college disc golf is right now, I think they're on a good trajectory. I think that the next steps to me are to kind of just continue trying to make it more official, right? Like start to have conferences and stuff like that where you can. Some places you can't have conferences because there's not enough teams. Where there's enough teams, start to have conferences and try to form those rivalries and stuff. I think that it would I think that could be a good next step. They talked about that. I think that, making it harder and harder to get to nationals is a good thing, in my opinion, because then the teams who are there, like, really earned their way there. And it becomes a more coveted thing. It shouldn't be something that every team can just show up and play nationals. So yeah, I don't know though. I think I like the team that's running it now. I think they really have a lot of ambition for the future of college disc golf. And I think college disc golf is a key part of the future of disc golf. So I feel good about college disc golf. When we stop doing an ad read, this is a great question. Drain Bamage said, actually, I'm going to skip this ad so I can make sure y'all see this question. He said, when you stop doing an ad read for a company, is it because you no longer believe in the product or because they pulled their sponsorship? For an example, I haven't seen you guys plug Factor in a while. So typically what will happen is this is typically the whole ad read process, right? Either we'll reach out to a company or a company reaches out to us, and initial part is negotiation where they send us the product for us to try, right? Whether a lot of times, like for instance, Ridge is a product that I had been using for years and years and years before they ever reached out to us. So when they did, they sent us product to try, but there was no vetting needed, which that happens with, several of the products we use where it's like, sick, I will gladly take another Ridge wallet, but I don't have to vet your product. I use it. Other products like, for instance, one that I have fallen in love with that I didn't know of before was the Dream stuff by Beam. I don't use this nightly by any means, but on certain nights where I didn't sleep good the night before, or I have something important the next day and I want to just make sure I get good sleep, I'll use it. It actually legitimately tastes great and legitimately is a great product. But how this ended up working was they sent it to us for us to test. We liked it. Then we pursued to make sure numbers made sense. And then what will happen is, I think this is more where you're talking, we'll get into a contract phase, right? Where sometimes there'll be like a test read where it's just like a 1 month, let's see how this goes for both parties type thing. Other times it'll be like, let's lock in a 4 or 5 month. And then typically what will happen is sometimes it'll be companies will want to expand their reach during a certain quarter, like maybe Q1 slow for them, or maybe it's Q4 and they're trying to really push, and we'll be a part of that push, but they aren't looking to form a long-term relationship with us. And then other companies like Manscaped, for instance, DraftKings, Ridge, they are looking to form a more longer-term relationship, and they'll, like Manscaped, we've been working with for like at least 3 years now, consistently. So Factor, for example, I believe they're actually owned by a different company we do reads for. Don't quote me on that. But basically what typically happens with Factor is we're not a part of their core relationship, if that makes sense. We're more a part of during their pushes. We are one of the branches we reach out for. And so that's more where that one, we'll probably do more Factor reads towards the end of the year when it's that time, or beginning of the year, different pushes. That's more typically when we'll do a Factor read. So that's typically what will happen is the contract will run up, and sometimes we just don't meet the ROI just doesn't make sense for the brand. Sometimes the brand is pulling back ad spend, or sometimes it's not received well from our audience. And even though we like the product, it just didn't hit home. We're like, you know what? We're not going to do it anymore. Factor, though, is one that we get really excited when they send us, a factor box, and we'll eat the meal as soon as the ad read's done, because we have to have the product to use in the ad read. As soon as the ad read's done, the food's gone in like 2 days, because we have like 6 of us here that just churn through those factor meals. None of us will pack lunch for like the next 5 days, and we'll all just eat the factor meals because they're delicious. They're actually incredible. So that's something, we love the product, but it has to all make sense, because sometimes, it'll be something where they don't want to pay our normal rate, but we have other companies that will, and it is what it is at that point. So yeah, I thought that's a good question, though, because a lot of times have context for how ad reads end up in, relationships we build with brands and stuff. What's my favorite disc right now in my bag? Drew asks. My favorite disc in my bag. Honest answer, probably right now. I have my three. I have three. My ESP Pink Zone. That's probably the disc that's been in my bag the longest, or close to it. Love that thing. It's beat in to be really, really straight, a little bit of finish, perfect. Then the Pink MD3 would be number 2, and then my Henna Blomroos Color Glow Thunderbird would be number 3. If I had an honorable mention, the Chuckaway Chick-fil-A Destroyer would be number 4. So, let's see. Do we know when the Thought Space Crux is coming out? I do not. Brad might know. How far do I typically run in the mornings? This morning was a 4-mile run. Right now I'm trying to build up to 26 miles, 25 miles in a week. I'm trying to build up to, 20 miles a week by the, 12th, 13th weekend of July, so 2 weeks. So this week I'll probably honestly be at 20 miles this week and try to just maintain it, because then the 19th, I believe, is when my marathon training will start. And that first week is a 26-mile week. So it's more focused on the weekly mileage than like daily mileage. But typically what my days look like is Tuesday is my speed work day. So I do 1 day of speed work a week. And then Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I try to run 3 of those days. That's my goal. And then Saturday, I run a longer run, whether that's 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever that looks like, a longer run. But I try to focus on weekly mileage. And right now I'm not training for anything. I'm about to start training for something, so I don't really care that much about my weekly mileage, just trying to stay in shape, maintain my aerobic base so that when marathon training starts, I'm ready. So I'm up and down right now. But I'm trying to stay between like 15 to 20 miles a week right now, so that when I go up to 26 miles for that first week and then slowly ramp up to 55 miles, I don't risk injury, because it'll be a slow ramp up. So that's the plan. Ronnie said, just tuned in. Have you tested the Gorgon yet? I haven't. I probably need to take one out today. If you want to get a feel for the Crux, check out the Mint Taco. The Taco's a great disc, so that could be interesting. Oh, back to, this is a good idea for Nicholas. Someone said indoor putting leagues during winter. Another great way if you wanted to, do disc golf full time. Simon said, I've heard you mention your faith and doing devotions and stuff. Are you Christian? I am. Yeah, I got saved I was born and raised Christian. Went to a Christian school, born and raised in church. But it's actually a funny story. So in 8th grade, my history teacher at the time was basically, there was this girl in my class that was saying that Justin Bieber was a Christian because he prayed before a concert, right? And my history teacher at the time was saying, I was like coming back at her being like, look, I'm not saying he's not a Christian, but just because he prayed before a concert doesn't mean he's a Christian. And so they get into this argument, And I'm loving the argument because it means I don't have to sit through history class, right? As like an eighth grader. So everyone's just, it's one of those situations where you're like, no one breaks silence because the second our teacher snaps out of it, we're going to have to learn again. And so we're all sitting there, and basically the teacher went up on the board and he was like, look, if before you come to know Christ, you're a triangle, after you come to know Christ, you should be a circle, because there should be basically a transformation that happens, right? You shouldn't be the same person before and after. That doesn't mean you're not going to have the same, temptations and stuff, but your heart's desire should change, should be transformed. And as I was sitting there, being someone who was like raised, in a Christian household, it was just like I thought I was Christian because everyone around me was Christian. I like saw that. I was like, that's never happened in my life. So that's, actually in math, the next period, I couldn't shake it, and committed my life to Christ in math class in February of whatever eighth grade was. So that's my testimony. What am I most excited to see Kevin Jones throw? Probably destroyers, because back in the day he had some beat up destroyers when he was throwing like pro discus. And I think that here's the deal. Okay, I am as much of it's the archer, not the arrows, as anyone. Okay, I understand it, I get it, but I do think that certain brands make discs that fit certain players' games better. For instance, I think that Chris Dickerson's game matches Prodigy's lineup more than it matches Discraft. So that's why I think Chris Dickerson had a higher ceiling with Prodigy than he does with Discraft. I think that Kevin Jones is the opposite. If you looked at Kevin Jones, when he was with Pro Discus, his game was different. When he was popping off, his game was different than what his game turned into with Prodigy. And I think that some players, I think he's going to be more comfortable throwing Innova than he was throwing Prodigy. It will take a little bit of time, but I think that he really could end up just being a better player throwing Innova. Nothing against Prodigy Plastic, because like I said, I think Dickerson's better with Prodigy. But I do think to a certain extent, the way a company's lineup fits a player's game does make sense. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Shay said, waiting to see Kevin Jones in the bag to see if the rumors of pushing the old Discmania mold is true. They already dropped like what was in his bag for the first weekend, and there wasn't any old original Discmania molds. So it'll be interesting to see. One thing I did find interesting was someone tagged me in a post of where Henna Blomroos is throwing S-Line FD, sponsored by Innova. They're an S-Line FD. That's crazy. Crazy to me. Because that just isn't something that really makes sense to me. Landon Womack said, how many people does Foundation employ, and what is it like running a small business in your experience? We technically have, I think, 12 employees, but we have, if you don't include me or Brody, we have 5 full-time employees, and then the rest are just part-time retail store warehouse guys. Running a small business is it's one of the most rewarding and one of the most stressful things you can do, in my opinion, because as the business grows, how many people rely on the business also grows. And, you like, I'm not the one making every single decision, but I'm the one kind of steering the ship in what direction we head. And like, if you steer the ship in the wrong direction, and you head down that path for too long, then you could like lead into, troubles to where, you can't make payroll or something. Fortunately, at Foundation, we've never once had that where we've like stressed about making a payroll or something, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't ever. And that doesn't mean I haven't lost sleep before thinking about like stuff like that, because like the more you grow, that's why internally, I always tell people, like, when I'm offering someone a job or when we're giving a raise or when we're just talking about, how much like a raise could be or whatever it may be, I am extremely, extremely conservative when it comes to finances, to where um, I never want to, and I tell people this all the time, they probably get sick of it, but I don't want to ever promise someone something that I don't feel very confident that we can do without worry. Because, like, the last thing we want to do is give someone a raise or bring someone in, and it's like fully dependent on, hey, we're going to hire you for $30,000, right? But if you don't make us $30,000 in the next year, we can't afford to pay you. Like, that terrifies me, right? Because, like, obviously everyone you hire should be a revenue generating in some way, shape, or form, to where they should pay for themselves. That's how business works. But at the same time, there's a learning curve, right? There might be the first 6 months they have to figure out the ins and out. Maybe they're an outside disc golf hire, they have to figure out the ins and out of disc golf, or maybe they're moving like Silas from inventory position into a creative position, and there's a whole transition. Like, the last thing I want to do is promise someone something that we can't fulfill on. And so that's where, there's just a lot of stress that comes with it. I think every small business owner would tell you that. But the freedom it gives you of being a small business owner is well worth it, because then, the like, you're your own boss. So at the end of the day, if Luca, who's my son, when he starts playing sports, I can work my schedule to make sure I don't miss one of his sporting events. And me personally, I know that's something that's very important to me. That's something where I also am going to allow anyone who works with us to work their schedule, and we'll figure out a way to make sure people are able to make it to stuff that's important to them. But I know that that's not the truth of every job. And that was something that was very important to me when I was, like, looking at what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted something where I was in control of my schedule, because I grew up fortunately enough that my dad was an entrepreneur. He owned a business, still does. But he coached my sister's basketball team. Then he coached my basketball team. He didn't miss a single one of my brother's soccer games or my basketball games or my sister's basketball games. We could take vacations, basically when we wanted. And, like, if I was sick and my mom had an appointment, my dad was able to come home and take care of us. And that's stuff where I noticed that growing up, and I feel like that was so valuable to me that I want to be able to provide that to my family. And I want to allow my employees, whoever's working a foundation, to be able to provide that to their family. But I know that's something that I couldn't get if I just went and worked some corporate job somewhere. Um, Long-winded answer. Don't know how I got there. There you have it. All Business Brad said, ironically enough, we have a factor read coming in today, or factor box coming in today. There you go. Perfect timing. How can I see who else has a foundation tag? We're working on that, Adam. We actually have a meeting tomorrow. We have, like, a customer experience update meeting every Wednesday, and that's one of the items on the docket of trying to just figure out the exact thing. Devin said, do I feel that's the case for Gannon? No, to be honest with you, when we were talking about Gannon, because I'm assuming you're talking about, like, people's, whatchamacallit, game lining up with brands. When we were talking about Gannon, I honestly feel like Discmania might fit Gannon's game better than Prodigy, which this season it would kind of allude there wasn't any issue with him transitioning. But Prodigy, to me, and maybe it's just because of the players that have played Prodigy, Prodigy is a flip up company. Like, they make their best discs are late flip up, or, like, hit it hard and flip it up type of discs straight out the box. Whereas I feel like Gannon is a hit it hard and turn it. I think Kevin Jones is a flip up guy, but I think Kevin Jones is an overstable flip up guy, where I think he likes having beat up destroyers. And with Prodigy, you have to find the really overstable D1s and find the Bowling Green D3s and stuff. You can't just, like, go grab that off a shelf. And I think that plays into a lot of stuff. So, yeah. Are y'all ever going to do another foundation sponsor team people can apply for? So we still have Team Foundation, but we didn't open it up to applications again this year. So we might do it again. We might open up applications again. We're definitely going to keep Team Foundation around. It's just, I don't know if we'll open things again, or applications again. Jason, customer experience expert here, said we have a Foundation Nation Tags Facebook group. We also have a channel in Discord as well. It's the crawl stage now, but it's picking up speed. Okay, so we do have ways if you're looking to exchange your Foundation Nation tag. I'm number 399. If anyone wants to play me, hit me up. I don't know what that says. It aches Juan. Not disc golf related. You inspired me to start running after always hating it. How'd you go from running 2 to 3 miles to longer 10 to 12 mile runs? First off, congratulations. Running is awesome. I was the same way. I hated running. Swore up one tree and down another. I'm never going to run. Here we are. How did I do it? I ran a 5K in 2021. And then I think I just kind of like ran throughout that year. 2022, we had my son. So I'd like built up my running endurance. And then I got injured. Then we had Luca. And then, so I was like still in just like 5K shape when the next turkey trot came around in 2022. So I ran that. And then I just put a half marathon on the calendar. And I was like, I'm going to run a half marathon in February. And I just sent it. So I don't know exactly how I transitioned. I vividly remember a 6 mile run being like wow, that's a long run. And now that's just a normal run for me. I think that like for right now, if you're running 3 miles, I would try to just send a 5 miler. Like just, take it nice and slow and steady, monitor your heart rate, try to keep your heart rate in the like mid to low 150s and run 5 miles. And then get home and it's probably going to like hurt. And then, next week try to go 6 and then try to go 7 and then it's a slow build. You don't want to go from 3 miles and just send a 12-mile run, but it just slowly builds because like so I ran my first half marathon in February 2023. Then in April I decided to run a marathon. So I signed up for a marathon in January. So in June of last year I started training for my second half marathon. I ran that in September of 2023 and then ran my full marathon in January. And before my first half marathon in February, I had never run more than 10 miles. That day, 13.1 miles was my longest run. I did that during race day. During the build to September, I hit my longest run ever at 14 miles. Then during the build to the marathon, my longest run was 20 miles. And then on marathon day, that was my longest run. I'd never ran over 20 miles until the marathon. So now 26.2 was my longest. During this marathon build, I think I'll hit a few 22-mile runs. I might hit one 24-mile run. But yeah, it's a slow build. Like, now I feel like I could go run 13 miles tomorrow if you just ask me to. But 2 years ago, 13 miles had never happened. Like, it was mind-boggling to even think about. So it just is a slow build. Let me get one from Instagram. Will said, I've been a big fan for a long time now. Would love to find a way to be a part of Team Foundation. If you live locally, DM us or something, because we are, especially during the summer and especially getting closer to Worlds, looking for more hands for the warehouse/retail store. Just part-time, minimum wage work. But, if you live local and looking for something for the summer, could be a good job. Tactical Brownie said, I have to know how many times a week you guys get Firehouse subs. This is right there tempting y'all. I have never gotten it. I'm a Subway guy. So, but Marco's is on the other end, Marco's Pizza. I probably get Marco's once every other week. I have some Marco's in the fridge right now. I'm going to eat for lunch today. So, Brody still owes me a marathon. You're going to make him pay up. I'm going to try, but here's the deal, okay? The Disney Marathon was supposed to originally be me, Jason, Brody, Kyle, Trevor. Okay. Sign up day comes. Trevor says, my ankles are too bad. I'm not doing it. He drops. Kyle never really responded. Don't know what happened with Kyle. Brody, Jason, me all signed up. Then Brody said, basically we all started training even. Brody got like a few weeks into training and was like, if I do a marathon, I want to do it with Kelsey. He's out. Jason kept training, but he was doing it with his son. His son, I believe, broke his jaw and had to have jaw surgery, and then couldn't run, like from a doctor, couldn't run until it would be too late to train for the marathon. And so Jason wanted to run with his son. So they pushed it back. I think they might be doing Disney this year, or I don't know when they're doing it again. So then they left. Jason dropped out, which then left me, just me. The only one that I think had a valid excuse was Jason. I give Jason because he wanted to run with his son. His son they were both training. They'd both started, but then his son couldn't run for like 6 weeks in the middle of when he was supposed to be marathon training. That you're not going to be able to do it. So Jason even still went to Disney, because they had already booked the trip and everything. Brody never even booked the trip. So Jason gets a free pass. Brody doesn't get a free pass. Trevor, I can't feel Trevor's ankles, so I don't know how bad they are, but you can't even mention running without Trevor saying he's got bad ankles. So I don't know. Is Paul McBeth currently in my top 3 to win Worlds? If not, what would it take for that to change between now and then? Is he currently in my top 3? No. Do I like him more at Worlds than I like him at any other tournament this year? Yes. I don't know what it would take for him to get in my top 3, because here's the problem is Gannon Burr, Calvin Heimberg, Anthony Barella, Ricky Wysocki. I'm sure I'm missing players. There's just a lot of players. I didn't even know I could do that. I just emoted. Not on here, sorry, on there. I gave a thumbs up. And I pop thumbs up. That's fun. How did Brody normally does like this and it makes a rock show? Oh, it worked on both. How about that? Huh? This whole stream just went up a level. But there's just too many really good players. But I would say Paul's best chance at a win is at Worlds, because he knows New London like the back of his hand. He helped design Ivy Hill. He's going to be very comfortable out there. So, yes, Simon is another one Shay brought up. Simon, I think, shot like 10 under at New London blind. The thing with New London is it is wooded, but it's not technical wooded. So the long arms are still going to have an advantage out there, because you can just crush one up there and finish left, and you're going to be okay on like most of the holes. So a lot of the guys that you would typically hear wooded course and think, I don't know, they're still going to be in it. So, all right, let's answer like 1 or 2 more questions. And then I'm going to try to get all the way down here. Oh, Juan said, awesome, just finished my first 5K last weekend. Love the vibes. I think I'm addicted to the feeling. Thank you for making great content. There is very little that I have found as satisfying as finishing a race. Because it's the reason I love disc golf too, is like I'm a slow marathon runner. I'm a slow runner, period, right? Like I'm not going to win a 5K. Definitely not going to win a half marathon. For sure not going to win a marathon. But I'm racing against myself, right? So for the first 5K, I was racing against Trevor, and Trevor beat me. But my first half marathon goal was to finish, and I finished. I did it. Second half marathon, I wanted to run a 2 hour and 5 minute half marathon. Ran a 2 hour and 6 minute, cramped on mile 12. Sucked, but still was really proud of the effort. Goal of my first marathon was to finish. Goal of this upcoming marathon, I want to run it as close to 4 hours as possible. So when you like get out there and you put out a really good effort on race day, and then you cross the finish line, and like you have, like my marathon in January was literally a culmination of 6 months of training. All came to one day, and I finished it super happy. Like there's nothing quite like that, like endorphin or whatever hormone rush that happens as soon as you cross the finish line. And I feel like the harder the race and the more training that goes in, like I can't imagine the guys that like run 100-mile races. Like your first 100-miler has to be like the most, you probably have, like get high from how many hormones come through. Like the runner's high is a real thing. So yeah, there's nothing quite like it. Everyone should definitely experience it at some point in their life. Okay, let's go. 1 from YouTube, 1 from Instagram here to wrap it up. Oh, here's a good question. Adam said, do you think people that are most successful on tour are just good at living on the road? Maybe AB just isn't built for the road life, so he's only good at the start of the season. There is definitely a factor. There's definitely a factor of people's comfort being away from home, right? I think that the stronger the connection to your home base, like the more family you have at home, the closer you are to that family, the harder it's going to be on the road. I mean, we've seen this. Brody's been very open with it, right? Where when Brody's on the road for long stretches, he just wants to be at home with Kelsey and the corgis, right? And like Brody, I think he would tell you this. He's not built to get on the road from March and be back home in October. That's not it for Brody. So Brody has to modify and like fly in, fly out. Obviously, Brody's not having the season he wants to, but like that is a factor of like it's easy. I've seen it with him where like at certain events where Kelsey's not there, it can get in his head where like he can start to have a bad round, and then he's like, "Why am I out here? I just want to be home." Right? Like I just want to be back home. And then that can just snowball into a really bad round. That's definitely a factor. Because some guys who've just been on the road since they were like 16, like Paul, um, Paul is just like, I'm not gonna say he's built for the road, but it helps that like his family's with him. Hannah and his son Pablo are out there with him. They've kind of always toured with him. But Paul, to a certain extent, just kind of is built for the road. Like he's just been doing it for so long that that's just the life he knows. Is like he locks in for a home base from October to February, March, and then once he hits the road, like when he lived in Lynchburg, he would come back to Lynchburg for like a few week stretch. But that's the other thing with Paul is like he was raised in California. He lived in Florida, then he moved to Oklahoma. Then I think he might have went either back to Florida or I don't know where he went between Oklahoma and Lynchburg, but then he lived in Lynchburg for a while. Now his home base is in Florida. He's got family kind of all over different parts. Like he just doesn't have a home base. A guy like that, which is what I think most of disc golf is, a lot of disc golfers that have been touring for a long time, they're just built for it. So they're going to be better on the road than a guy who has a full family. Like who's the dude who Colorado? He's Joe Revere, right? Like he just provides for his family as like I think he's a teacher or something. Provides for his family, loves his life in Colorado. Could be on tour. He's older too, but he's like still disgusting, like 1036 rated. Shows up, wins, tournaments left and right. But he's happy at home. That's where he wants to be. He would not be good on tour. I think he'd have good tournaments, but like being gone for a long period of time, you just get homesick. It is what it is. That definitely is a factor. Is AB that way? I don't know. Could be. All right. Final question. Double question. I get this one a lot. Dom's Chip said 2 years ago I won a challenge where he got to egg Trevor at any point. Have I done it yet? I did. It was on like a ping pong live stream. It kind of sucked. The egg didn't break. I just pelted Trevor with basically a frozen egg. Gave him a bruise. Whole ordeal. Okay, Ollie Bros, this will be the finals one, said, any hint on the July sub box? So July, we're going to go all in on the like July 4th theme. We have I don't even know exactly what we're going to call it, but we've got the discs all ordered. I think we're going to be able to do again, which don't come to expect this, but it's several months in a row now where we're going to be able to do 2 custom stamp discs. Super excited. We might be dropping the new Foundation Nation logo because I feel like that's a good time to do it. I think that might be a part of it too. So really exciting box in July. There's still plenty of opportunity to get in on the June box, the Birdie or Die box. If you haven't had an opportunity yet, or if you haven't picked one up yet, there's still quite a few of those left. Gives you everything you need to die discs and gives you discs to die. So super exciting box there. And then July box is sick. August box we're already working on. I think it might be a personality specific box again. It's been a while since we've done one of those. That's where things like the Con Man Shaman came from. Excuse me. So we might be doing another personality box in August. So as you can tell, we're planning these like it's June 25th, and we've already planned, and we might have already ordered some of the discs for August box. That's how far ahead these things are, and we're ordering discs specifically for the boxes. We're not just like right now we have, I think we still have quite a few like entropies from that MVP release, right? Super easy just to be like, oh, sick. We got 50-inch piece sitting on the shelf or 100-inch piece. Let's throw that in next month's box. We could easily do that. That's not what these boxes are. That's not what these are for. We're curating these boxes specifically to the theme. And I think it's one of the things that sets us apart. So super excited about that. We're going to try to do I haven't told Trevor this yet, so we'll see planning wise if it works. But if it works in Trevor's schedule, I think we'll try to do a grip locked half episode today, probably 20 minutes on the Kevin Jones to Innova topic, because we dropped the ball. Don't know how we didn't talk about that. So be looking out for that on the Grip Lock channel today, because it's too big of a topic for us to wait till next week. But other than that, appreciate y'all tuning in on YouTube and on Instagram, and I will see you again next week. See you then.